For years, people all over the world have argued about whether heaven is real, but nothing shook that conversation more than the moment Colton, a 3-year-old boy, barely old enough to tie his shoes, came back from the edge of death, describing things no child his age could possibly invent. It began during a sudden and dangerous health crisis. His parents rushed him to the hospital, worried he might not survive. Doctors worked quickly, but his condition kept getting worse. For a moment, his family feared they were losing him. But while the medical team focused on saving his life, Colton later said something very different was happening to him. Something peaceful, bright, and completely outside that hospital room. At first, he struggled to explain it in simple words. He was only 3. But the more he talked, the more his parents realized he was describing things he shouldn't have known, and details no one had told him. This is where Colton's story truly begins. Colton's crisis got worse in the hospital. Machines beeped, doctors moved fast, and every second felt like an eternity. At one point, it seemed his little body might not make it. Then, according to Colton, something incredible happened. He said he felt himself floating above his body, able to see the doctors working on him, hear their voices, and even see his parents in the waiting area, praying and crying. He described the room exactly as it was, from the equipment to the nurses' actions, things he could not have known while unconscious. His parents were stunned, doctors were baffled, and Colton remained calm. But this wasn't the end. Colton said that after observing the hospital, he suddenly felt a pull, a movement towards something bright and warm, a feeling unlike anything on earth. He described it as being lifted into a place filled with light, love, and peace, so real that he would later struggle to explain it with simple words. And then, he said he saw someone waiting for him there. Colton said that as he was drawn toward the bright light, he suddenly saw a man approaching him. Gentle, kind, with eyes full of love, dressed in white with a purple sash. Colton knew immediately this was Jesus. He described how Jesus picked him up and held him. Colton said it felt safe, warm, and completely loving, like nothing he had ever felt on earth. He couldn't stop smiling, and he didn't want to leave. Around him, Colton saw colors and light brighter than anything in the world. He said it was as if the light itself was alive, filled with love and energy. There was music too, soft and beautiful, coming from nowhere, but it made him feel calm and happy. Then Colton said something that stunned his parents. He met family members he had never met on Earth, a little sister who had been miscarried. He recognized her immediately, hugged her, and even remembered her name, though no one had told him. Colton also mentioned his great-grandfather, who had passed away long before Colton was born. He described him exactly, how he looked, his voice, and the way he smiled. These were details only someone who had known them could possibly know. Everything he said was specific, simple, and yet completely impossible for a 3-year-old to make up. As Colton continued through this bright, overwhelming place, he saw others around him, beings he couldn't fully understand at first. He called them angels. They didn't speak, but their presence made him feel safe and loved. He said they had glowing faces and wings that shimmered like light itself, moving gracefully around him. Then Colton's attention returned to the people he recognized. He met his little sister, the one his parents had lost before she was born. He remembered her exactly as she would have been, her small features, her laughter, the way she held her hands. He hugged her and played with her, even though he couldn't explain how he knew her so well. Next, Colton saw his great-grandfather, someone who had died long before Colton was born. He remembered the way he smelled, the sound of his voice, and even the kind of glasses he wore. His parents later confirmed every small detail. Colton said the moment felt warm and peaceful, as if he had known these family members forever. Amidst all this, Colton also noticed something unusual. He saw angels interacting with him and others, some carrying instruments that made music no human had ever heard. He described the music as joyful, full of love, and calming all at once. Colton said it wasn't like anything on earth. It made him feel lighter and happier than he had ever felt in his whole life. Every moment was filled with incomprehensible joy, but also a sense of order and purpose. Colton described paths of light, shining towers and gardens so beautiful that words failed him. Even as a 3-year-old, he tried to explain the colors, the warmth, and the overwhelming love surrounding him. Yet, despite all the wonder, Colton never lost sight of the person he knew as Jesus. The figure remained central, watching, smiling, and radiating love so intense it left Colton feeling completely safe. This was the heart of the place, and Colton instinctively understood. Everything in heaven revolved around love, protection, and guidance. Colton didn't just see people and angels. He saw a world beyond imagination. He described streets of gold that sparkled under a light that had no source, and buildings that shone with colors he had never seen on earth. Everything seemed alive with energy, yet peaceful at the same time. He said there were animals too, some familiar, some unlike anything on earth, walking and playing among the people. He even mentioned birds with brilliant colors and other creatures he didn't know the names for, but somehow recognized. The music was everywhere, soft and powerful, coming from instruments Colton couldn't name. He said the songs weren't just heard, they were felt in your heart, filling him with joy and peace, unlike anything he had felt on earth. One detail shocked his parents more than anything else. Colton described Jesus carrying a sword, not a weapon of violence, but one that radiated light and authority, a symbol of protection and power. Colton said he didn't feel fear, only safety, knowing that nothing could harm him there. Colton also noticed the colors and light themselves seemed alive, flowing and dancing like waves. He said they made the air shimmer and gave the feeling of being completely loved and understood. Every moment was bright, alive, and comforting beyond words. Even as a child, he tried to describe the order and beauty of the place. There were paths lined with flowers he couldn't name, towers reaching higher than the eye could see, and endless gardens where everyone moved freely, peacefully, and happily. Everything Colton saw was extraordinary, but what struck people the most was how specific and consistent his descriptions were, even years later. Nothing he said could have been imagined by a 3-year-old who had never been exposed to such concepts. After Colton returned to his body, the first thing his parents noticed was how calm he was. For a child who had been so sick, he seemed completely peaceful, almost glowing. Then he began to tell them what had happened, details no 3-year-old could have known. He described the hospital room, the machines, and the doctor's actions with precise accuracy. His father confirmed later that Colton described things only someone who had been floating above could have known. But it wasn't just the hospital. Colton described meeting family members he had never met on Earth, like his miscarried sister and great-grandfather. His parents were stunned. Every detail he shared, names, appearances, even small habits, matched reality perfectly. Doctors who treated him couldn't explain how a child so young could recall these events. Colton also gave unexpected details about heaven, like angels, music, and the sword Jesus carried. He described colors, light, and joy that no child could invent on their own. His stories spread quickly, first through his parents, then books, interviews, and documentaries. Millions of people were shocked and moved by the specificity, innocence, and faith in his account. And even after years, Colton could recall every moment clearly, something rare for any child, especially one so young at the time. Every new revelation only added to the mystery. How could a 3-year-old describe heaven, angels, music, family, and Jesus so accurately. People all over the world began to listen, to wonder, and to question what they truly knew about life after death. Even now, Colton's story continues to touch hearts worldwide. People are drawn not just to what he saw, but how a child could feel and describe something so unimaginable. The love, the peace, the joy he experienced in that place. He remembers it like it was yesterday. Colton said the experience changed him in ways words can barely capture. He felt a deep connection to Jesus, family, and a sense of safety he had never known on earth. Every detail, the light, the music, the angels, the family, left an imprint on him that would last forever. And while he tells his story simply, it leaves listeners overwhelmed with wonder. Adults, skeptics, pastors, and children alike are often left speechless, struggling to comprehend how such vivid, accurate details could come from a 3-year-old. The most powerful part: Colton didn't just see beauty and love. He felt the reality of a place beyond this world, one filled with hope and unimaginable peace. It's a place that would change anyone who hears about it. If only they could believe it. And as he recalls these moments, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. What he experienced was beyond imagination, beyond explanation, and profoundly real to him.